I have a lot of time anxiety, which always happens in my dreams, where I'm trying to reach somewhere, I'm not able to, you know.
मेरी वो हमेशा एग्जाम पेपर है, इन्विजिलेटर आ रहा है,
वो तो कभी I don't think it'll ever leave us.
और वो पेपर छीनने वाला है, नहीं नहीं मेरे को पेपर भरना.
If you've grown up in India in the 80s, 90s, you will be dying of middle class time anxiety. I was dieting for a role and I had thought कि shooting खत्म होगा ना, I'll go and then I'm really going to go and eat this chola kulcha in Lashkara in Punjab sweets. And I was really building it up in my head. हाँ कि shoot खत्म होगा तो मैं जाके खाऊंगी. Shoot खत्म हुआ and I had some other work which I finished and finally at 4 o'clock in the afternoon I reached and I said, I want my chola kulcha. They said ये 6 बजे तक नहीं मिलेगा क्योंकि वो रेस्टोरेंट सिर्फ 6 बजे खुलता है. And I started crying. I was like, where are these tears coming from?
Now I want to talk to you about books, like and books के साथ. ठीक है.
Saddest relationship in the last few years. It's complicated.
Situationship. Hi Rasika, how are you? Welcome to Chalchitra Talks.
Very well, thank you so much.
मैं पता है आपको, I don't know if you know, मैं आपको बहुत पहले से मैसेज करता था, please come on Chalchitra Talks.
I know, I'm very guilty कि मैंने कुछ मैसेजेस के जवाब नहीं दिए.
No, but
एकदम शूटिंग के बीच में कभी आ जाए ना, then you're not in that zone.
No, that's always a good thing कि शूटिंग के टाइम तो मतलब बिल्कुल हर पाप माफ होता है.
That's true and it's my biggest excuse. I use it as a big excuse. कहीं नहीं जाना होता, मैं बोलती हूँ शूटिंग कर रही हूँ. कोई कुछ नहीं पूछता है.
But it's finally happening and I am so glad because मेरे को ना आपकी short films, like I love your work in general but particularly your short films I'm a big fan of. और अभी मेरे को पता चला मैंने आपकी सारी short films नहीं देखी है,
काफी नहीं देखी.
but मैं थोड़ा ना अगली बार rewatch करके मेरा हो जाता है, like and I am a big fan of अगली बार. And आपको सबसे पहले चटनी का बोलते होंगे या like which is the short film people refer the.
चटनी सबसे ज़्यादा क्योंकि वो शायद बहुत ज़्यादा पॉप हो गया था and especially 2016 में जब ये 1 million views overnight होना बहुत बड़ी चीज़ थी. आजकल तो it's a very regular common thing. I remember जब and it was news to me that a short film can have that kind of audience and people can be so excited about it and so it was quite Qissa and I hadn't expected. Jyoti had directed the film and none of us had expected कि ऐसा कुछ बहुत fantastic हमने कुछ बनाया है कि वो इतना mainstream हो जाएगा. So it was quite a nice thing to see because it was one of those कि and mostly short films ऐसी होती हैं कि आपका कोई दोस्त है, आपको उनके साथ काम करने का मन है, वो बोलते हैं कि हमारे पास अच्छी स्क्रिप्ट है, वो चाय पे आते हैं आपके घर एक दिन और बोलते हैं वुड यू लाइक टू डू दिस, यू आर लाइक हाँ चलो लेट्स डू दिस. सो चटनी वाज आल्सो वन ऑफ दोज, अगली बार वाज आल्सो वन ऑफ दोज. आई हैव ऑलवेज वांटेड टू वर्क विद देवाशीष एंड आई हैव ऑलवेज रियली एंजॉयड माय कन्वर्सेशंस विद हिम. एंड टिस्का एंड आई हैड वर्कड ऑन अ फिल्म कॉल्ड किस्सा जिसमें इरफान, टिस्का, तिलोत्तमा एंड आई वर देयर एंड that is one of my most favorite experiences as a performer and I don't think I've had an experience like that as a performer ever again and definitely never before. तो वो हमारी एक बॉन्ड थी उस फिल्म की वजह से. तो टिस्का said मैंने ये स्क्रिप्ट लिखी है and would you like to be a part of it? I said yeah of course. I mean I had not even read the script. I said I will be a part of it. And then she said, I want to narrate it to you. So I said, okay. And I thought it was very interesting, but I didn't think ki, short form content was so watched. And, you know, now it's a very common thing. But then I didn't have a sense of how much people are watching online and how crazy it can become. So, haan, to chutney is always one which comes up. Many people meet me and बोलते हैं, मैम हमने आपकी वो short film देखी है मिर्ची. नहीं
कुछ इलायची भी बोलते होंगे. इलायची is also there.
इलायची देवाशीष film. लेकिन there's another one which is also on large short films. It's called The School Bag. So it's a very sweet story of a mother and son, and that had actually come a couple of months after Chutney. No, maybe a year. No, actually a little while after Chutney, but that's also been watched a lot. So वो भी people refer to that a lot. Then नसीर साहब के साथ ये मिनिएचरिस्ट ऑफ जूनागढ़ किया तो वो भी actually it got a lot of views.
Nice. So which are some of your favorite short films in general जहाँ पे आपने एक्ट नहीं किया बट आपको यार ये क्या फिल्म शॉर्ट फिल्म बनाई है?
Oh, there was this one very interesting short film. I'm very bad with names. I'm forgetting the name of that.
I'll tell you, जैसे मैं आपको एक दो बताता
But I
हूँ.
have to find the
Yeah.
name of that. It's called 6 o'clock? Is it called 6 o'clock? Have you watched that?
We'll just check. No, I haven't.
It's a typical, short films में होता है कि I don't know now how much it's still around, but at that time there was this fad of short films having a twist in the end.
Yes.
Like Chutney also does, right? कि कहानी चल रही है और एक twist आ गया and then you rethink the whole story from a different perspective. So that was also one of those very nicely made. It's not an Indian short film.
Yeah, 6 o'clock. The 6 o'clock.
The 6 o'clock. What's the name of the actor?
Kent Shockdick.
Yeah, very interesting short film. Yeah, where there's a guy who comes to meet his psychiatrist or a psychologist, if I'm not mistaken, one of the two, and okay, I don't want to reveal. The twist, the story is the twist.
Okay.
So basically, whether you don't know who's the patient, who's the psychologist, it's one of those.
Nice.
Interesting. So that was very nicely made.
There's one in Indian landscape that like I love a lot, which is Juice. Juice is something like which is almost pitch perfect for me. Yeah.
It is, but what the other one that Neeraj made, Juice, I really like. I think it's very difficult in a short film to create. It's very important to create an atmosphere, क्योंकि उस माहौल के बिना आप वो कहानी शॉर्ट फिल्म में बोल ही नहीं सकते, क्योंकि you don't have the luxury of time. You have that much time, and उस time में you have to say everything. So the detailing of a short film is so important, and that's what really excites me about short films. The small things that you're compelled to put, जो anyway storytelling में मौजूद होनी चाहिए. That kind of detailing should be there in every thing that you make. But very often long form content में लोग ये चीज़ें skip कर देते हैं, especially the stuff that's not made with the kind of integrity that is very endearing to a performer at least. Short film में वो बहुत important हो जाता है. And so Neeraj had made one with Ajeeb Dastans as part of the anthology.
Yes.
Which has
Gili Pucci,
which has Konkana and Aditi Rawaidari, and I think it's one of Konkana's best performances. She's outstanding in it, and when I saw that film, I just felt like, sometimes you feel that you don't know, even though you've been doing this for a few years, you don't know how this performance started. You can't see the skill, but you know the skill is there. You can't see the effort. You just feel like the performer's been, I know her socially, I've known her as a performer for so many years, I've watched so much of her work, but I just felt like koi spirit andar chala gaya, and this person is transformed, and that's what you want to see in yourself as a performer. That's what you want to see when you watch other performers. And I think that short film did that.
And as a director also, her short film with Lust Stories.
Very beautiful.
Very good. Like
I don't think she's ever done bad work.
True. She hasn't.
If she's there, she's made the work good.
Yeah.
She's one of those people. And it's so nice to see her voice as a director.
Yeah.
And even with Death in the Gunj.
Death in the Gunj. Beautiful stuff.
It was very, very well done. But with Lust Stories, I think just the directorial, the writing and the way the director's chosen to film what was written is just very nice.
So देवेशीष ने एक पोस्ट डाली थी फेसबुक पे अबाउट दैट शॉर्ट फिल्म कि इसने वो कर दिया जो मैं मेरी हर शॉर्ट फिल्म में एक फेमिनिन गेज के साथ करने की कोशिश करता हूँ, बट मेरे को नहीं लगता मैं इस लेवल पे कभी कर सकता हूँ. एंड मुझे एक्सेप्टेंस होती है ना कि कैसे एज अ मैन जब हम करते हैं कि यार ये हम भी दिखाना चाहते हैं, बट लाइक शी गॉट द नुआंसेस सो ब्रिलियंटली राइट.
Even with the way the camera moves in that film, and even with the way like repetition is used a lot in cinema, and it works very effectively for some films, and sometimes it just doesn't work. In this film, I thought it worked very beautifully. You know, that you establish that rhythm, of that this happens every day.
Yeah.
You know, and she's done it very beautifully.
Yeah.
And even I think the most touching moment for me in the film was when the husband says to Amrita's husband says to her, but nobody told me.
Yes.
You know, that I was not watched, and that sometimes, and that is such an important conversation to have today in the world that we are living in, which is so polarized between right and left, and so polarized between man and woman. Ki, you know,
you knew, she knew, but nobody told me.
That in your intent to give respect to somebody because they belong to a certain gender, do you then forget that two people who identify with two different genders are not at war? They're not opposed to each other. That we coexist, and in this conversation, there is room for desire, there is room for love, there's room for still holding your own. You know. तो कि मैन वुमन एक दूसरे से झगड़ा कर रहे हैं वो लेवल की कॉन्वर्सेशन नहीं है यू नो कि इफ देयर इज अ फेमिनिन गेज in that feminine gaze there's room for sensitivity for a man also. True. You know, so it's not that a feminine gaze is not human. Absolutely. That it's only human to people who identify as women or identify as female, you know. So that was the most touching moment for me in that film.
You know, going on a completely different tangent, मेरे को आजकल ऐसे फिल्मों से ये शिकायत है कि a lot of times dubbing इस लेवल की हो रही है कि बिकॉज सिंग साउंड कम होता है ना तो जो डबिंग ज़्यादा होती है तो कभी कभी डबिंग पे वर्ड्स पे इतना फोकस होता है और साउंड डिज़ाइन इतना कम होता है कि आई थिंक द एसेंस ऑफ द सीन इज गोइंग अवे आई बीन नोटिसिंग इट अ लॉट इन अ लॉट ऑफ फिल्म्स इन अ शोज कि साउंड डिज़ाइन ही नहीं है देयर इज जस्ट टू मच फोकस ऑन द वर्ड्स और कोई आप एम्बियंस फील नहीं कर पा रहे आप कोई एटमॉस्फेयर नहीं फील कर रहे और फिर बाद में कुछ ऑफ था एंड देन आई अंडरस्टैंड आई ऑल्सो रेड अबाउट इट कि ये आजकल हो रहा है कि डबिंग वॉइसेस पे इतना ध्यान क्योंकि लोग फ़ोन पे देखते हैं आजकल इतना सारा लाइक चीज़ें और लाइक वो सारी चीज़ें फ़ोन फ्रेंडली करने के लिए स्मॉल स्क्रीन फ्रेंडली करने के लिए द एसेंस ऑफ साउंड डिज़ाइन एट सम लेवल कम हो रहा है और मेरे को थोड़ा सैड लगता है वो
I haven't noticed it in the work that I am doing, and not recently. I watched a few shows. I have not noticed a lack of sound design, but I'm very sensitive to sound design because मुझे लगता है it ruins a show for me. It ruins performances, you know, because if your sound design has not understood what the performance is already doing, and it's trying to drive an emotion home. Then it's failed miserably. Like for me, when I'm watching something, if the sound design is telling me how to feel, I have checked out of that show long ago, you know, and I'm very sensitive to it. It really makes a difference to me. But what I haven't noticed is I still feel a lot of it is sync sound. Also because I haven't done much dubbing it's always very little for two reasons. One is I think everybody is in a rush to get the show out, so they want to leave as little for post-production as possible. Also, आजकल इतने सारे सॉफ्टवेयर्स आ गए हैं कि साउंड ट्रैक्स काफ़ी आसानी से क्लीन हो जाते हैं. So a lot of stuff which earlier I remember I used to have to dub for, आजकल I don't have to dub for it because they've been able to clean it out. Because wherever you go in this country, whether you're shooting in a village, whether you're shooting in a studio, maybe there is outside noise.
But yeah, when you say कि अगर मेरे को sound बता रहा है how I need to feel, do you also kind of mean music कि जब कोई एक musical element आ रहा है या like क्योंकि sound design I'm talking about the ambience which is filling the scene.
I'm talking about the background score as part of the background score. Got it. But I know what you're saying about the ambient sound being absent. I haven't noticed it much in the what
off camera वैसे दिल नहीं तोड़ना चाहता था
तो ऐसे तो मैंने notice नहीं किया. In fact, I thought the sound design of Kohra was very interesting.
Very good.
And I thought the background score of Jubilee was very good.
Nice.
You know?
It was. So I want to talk about like movies in general. हमने short films की बात की, but आपकी life की पहली movie watching memory क्या है?
पहली मूवी
कि जब आप कभी थिएटर में गए हो या कि कोई टीवी पे आपने कुछ चलते हुए देखा, यार दिस इज अ इमेज आई रिमेम्बर.
So I grew up in Jamshedpur.
Okay.
And Jamshedpur में movies ना हम लोग clubs में देखते थे, क्योंकि theater में जाना was not considered, because theaters were not very nicely maintained, and it was generally thought of as that जनता theater जाती, हम लोग क्लब में मूवी देखते हैं. इट वाज दैट काइंड ऑफ अ मिडिल क्लास बिहेवियर, बट बड़े शहरों में ऐसा नहीं होता था. बड़े शहरों में लोग थिएटर में फिल्में देखने जाते थे. छोटे शहरों में ऐसा माना जाता था कि दोस थिएटर्स आर नॉट गुड इनफ एंड देयर विल बी टू मच क्राउड एंड देयर विल बी डिफिकल्ट टू सॉर्ट ऑफ टेक चिल्ड्रन इनटू दैट क्राउड एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. सो that was the general thing. So theater में movies, actually for the first time, my first memory of watching a film in the theater is I used to go for my summer holidays to Chandigarh. My nana nani used to live there. तो जब भी चंडीगढ़ में समर हॉलीडेज में मतलब बहुत गर्मी होती थी. तो जब भी इलेक्ट्रिसिटी चली जाती थी, लोड शेडिंग हो जाता था, so then my aunt would take all of us to the cinema hall because there was AC.
Wow.
To watch a film.
Wow.
So that is my first memory of being in a theater. I don't know if that was the first time, but that is my that's what I remember as first. But otherwise, I remember watching a lot of English films in the club and on a big screen. And that was like, us samay I used to take it for granted, but now when I think back, it was quite a cinema paradiso experience, क्योंकि open air था.
Wow.
So the screen was out in the open, and I remember that once you're engrossed in a film, अगर बारिश भी हो जाती थी, हम लोग छाता खोल के बैठ के देखते थे. ऐसे नहीं कि कोई उठ के चले जाए. So I've watched a lot of, but the clubs used to get mostly the films which have done very well in the theaters. If it had not done well in the theater, I don't think they could procure a print at that time. So like Jurassic Park and all, we have sat with chatas in the rain and watched all of that. So मतलब mainstream Hollywood films होती थी.
This reminds me, my dad is a doctor, तो वो उनका भी एक डॉक्टर्स का क्लब था. मेरे को भी एक ऐसे मेमोरी याद आई कि वहाँ पे भी ऐसे 6 महीने में एक बार लाइक ऐसे दे वुड गेट दिस लाइक स्क्रीन, और वहाँ पे एक वो ऐसे ओपन एयर एक कोई मूवी दिखाएंगे. तो दे वन शोड ग्लैडिएटर, और मैं बहुत छोटा था तब, आई थिंक 3rd 4th स्टैंडर्ड, एंड आई हेटेड इट. मैंने कहा क्या टाइम वेस्ट.
बट यूजुअली मेन लाइक दोस.
हाँ, बट लाइक मैं बहुत छोटा था. आई इवेंचुअली लव्ड ग्लैडिएटर. बट जब लाइक ग्लैडिएटर मैंने पहली बार देखी, एंड आई एम लाइक what is this, I don't like this. then उन्होंने फिर एक बार Rush Hour 2 दिखाई, that I really like. उसमें से थोड़ा मार धाड़ कॉमेडी थी, that I liked.
I remember once from school they had taken us to watch a film in the theater, and it was this Arnold Schwarzenegger film called True Lies. It's quite bad, and and it was dubbed in Hindi. So it was just the worst possible. To watch a Hollywood, an English film dubbed in Hindi is terrible. You can watch with subtitles, you don't mind that. But dubbed तो बहुत अजीब हो जाता है. फिर वो अजीब चीजें मतलब.
हाँ, वो डबिंग हमारी जो टीम्स है ना, वो बहुत क्रिएटिव लिबर्टी लेती है, I think.
And there's a way that I think at that time dubbing was done in a way so the tonality of the voice was similar in every scene. So it used to be like, अच्छा तुम ये करोगी? It used to be like that.
And suddenly they'll make someone a Punjabi character.
हाँ, because वो dubbing artist की पंजाबी निकल रही है. So yeah, that was quite funny.
Yeah, dubbing में तो मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि उन्होंने like अभी I was doing an episode with Kunal Gemu, and he said कि उन्होंने Jurassic Park में डायनासोर को छिपकली बना दी. डबिंग वालों के पास क्या राइट्स होते हैं कि यार अपन ना इसको हनी सिंह बोल देते हैं अगर उसने एमएनएम बोला है. आप कभी नोटिस
यार उन्होंने जुरासिक पार्क में डायनासोर को चिपकली बोल दिया था हिंदी में.
अरे in Bengal I remember they used to call it Dinuda. Seriously, in Calcutta, because sometimes we used to go to Calcutta. Jamshedpur was a small town, so everything was not available there, so we used to go to Calcutta to buy things, and one of the things to do was also to go to the theater. You know, you go shopping and whatever you want to buy, you buy from the big city, and then you go back home. That kind of feeling. And I remember Jurassic Park in Calcutta was called in the film when they had dubbed it, they had called it Dinuda.
Yeah. You know, since आपने जमशेदपुर mention किया, have you seen good depiction of Jamshedpur in movies from India?
Udaan.
Yeah. मैं क्योंकि बहुत देर तक उड़ान सोच रहा था.
And it was also shot at a time when I had already started working in films. So I knew Vikram a little bit and I knew they were shooting there. A friend of mine, a very close friend of mine from FTII had edited the film. So I knew that it was being shot in Jamshedpur and I was so excited that there was finally, you know, something being shot in my town.
I remember in Udaan, the father, जब वो अपने रणित रॉय जब पहली बार मेरे को उनको वॉक पर एक रन पे लेके जाते हैं, and he shows all the important monuments,
which is parks and
parks, factories, ये factory है यहाँ पे ये है, और वो ऐसे गुस्से में बोल रहे थे. और and the home also, I think they selected, no?
The home is like, when I saw it on screen, it reminded me of so many places. My friend, and I knew where it was shot. It is in this, in KD Flats. And the way they lit it, it represents how that staircase used to feel when you walk, you know? So it was lovely to watch. And of course, they had asked some people from the city to act in it. So I knew a lot of people who were in the party scene.
Wow.
So,
and since we were talking about sound design, one of the films which has a great sound design is Udaan. मतलब वो जब गाड़ी भी 4 बारी में चलती है, जब वो पहली बार अपनी ट्रंक घर पे लेके आता है, हाँ. जब वो रेलवे स्टेशन पे उतरता है, all those small sounds. Because मेरे को जितना याद है, and I think Vikram has like done sound design in past. Vikram आदित्य मोटवाने.
Oh really? I don't know.
I think yes. उन्होंने शायद 5 पे ही उनका एक साउंड का भी क्रेडिट आता है.
ओह अच्छा.
हाँ, तो यार मेरे को लगा यार ये बहुत ही ज़्यादा सही साउंड कर रहे हैं. मतलब जैसे रेलवे स्टेशन पे समटाइम्स जब जैसे रजत बर्मेचा का जो कैरेक्टर था, जब वो उतरते, रोहन जब वो पहली बार रेलवे स्टेशन पे उतरते हैं, एक मेल वॉइस आती है. सो हमने ना हमेशा यात्रीगण के पे ध्यान दें, फीमेल वॉइस, बट लेटली देयर आर आल्सो दीज मेल वॉइसेस, एंड देन ही डिपिक्टेड अ मेल वॉइस. And I'm like, this is the accurate one, क्योंकि आपको हमेशा यात्रीगण के पे ध्यान देने की सुनाई. तो I'm like कि भाई इन्होंने किया है.
Actually, I think Kunal did the sound of it, if I'm not mistaken. He's a very talented sound designer. Very talented.
Has he? Or can you tell me the other films that
he's done most of Anurag's films. He's done No Smoking. He's done, I think must have done Devdi also. I can't really remember if he was on all of them, but I think he did Jubilee as well.
Yeah.
I think the sound design was.
उनकी अनुराग कश्यप की भी फिल्म्स का साउंड डिजाइन बहुत
इंटरेस्टिंग होता है always.
And जमशेदपुर उड़ान के अलावा any other film where you might have
which
seen?
is set in Jamshedpur?
Yeah.
No, actually. Have you seen?
नहीं, मेरे दिमाग में भी सिर्फ उड़ान आ रहा.
And even when I watched Udaan, sometimes I've heard ki in some films that this person is from Jamshedpur. I can't remember which one, but I always feel very happy because actually there are lots of people who are working in the film industry who are from Jamshedpur.
Yeah.
So
and अभी जैसे आपने अपनी initial movie watching memories हमें बताई, so which was that first movie which left an influence over you कि अरे यार ये कितनी अच्छी पिक्चर थी?
I think it was Mr. India.
Wow.
It's still one of my favorite films. It's such a fun film. And I think it's one of those which has aged well also, you know, which has the humor, which has the intensity, which has the pathos, which has all of that. And I absolutely love Sridevi in that film. And I think one of my favorite songs is Bijli Girane, and she's so fantastic in it. And I think she had great comic timing, and she was able to really do the heavy lifting in the serious scenes, and be so good with her body and her face. Like if you look at that song, every muscle on her face is doing different things, you know, and it's so nice to watch that that very animated sort of way of being, you know. And I think that's a very different skill and a very interesting skill to have. I was a huge Sridevi fan. I loved her.
So how old were you when you saw Mr. India for the first time?
I can't remember how old I
But
was.
school, college?
School.
School. Yeah.
And I watched it on videotape. And so it must have been a little while after it had released, because most of my cinema viewing used to be on videotape on a VCR. And my aunt had started a video library. It was called Video Tracks, I remember. वो video lending library होती है ना कि आप 2 दिन के लिए rent करो, and it's some, I can't remember how much it was at that time, but
So you had to pay your aunt?
no, no, I got a family discount. And it was also, she had opened it from, you know, there was a little room we had at the back of a house. So I just had to go to that video library and get a film. And she was, she really loved films, and actually she still does. She's very passionate about mainstream Hindi cinema. So she used to recommend films to us, and we used to watch it. And yeah, I watched
कोई
it.
आपको उनकी recommendation कोई याद हो?
I think Mr. India must have been her recommendation, because I think it was viewed as a children's film, right? Though it's not, it like all children's films, it can be, it's as palatable to adults as it is to children. But I remember VCR में देखते समय ना वो always print में कुछ खराबी होती थी. So you had a spray which you had to constantly, you had to do something called tracking. I think you might be too young for this.
हमारे घर पे भी VCR था.
हाँ, you remember VCR times एक होता था tracking करना पड़ता था. But that so there were these 2 buttons which would clear out the glitches. There's a thing called tracking, and then sometimes you had to clean the head of the VCR. So if the tape would suddenly start going zzz in the middle, you have to take out the tape and put that spray and put the videotape back. So yeah.
I know VCR because my elder brother had a big Shah Rukh Khan like phase. अभी भी चल रहा है वो, मेरा भी चल रहा है.
हाँ, मेरा भी चल रहा है.
बचपन से चल रहा है, एक बार start हुआ है वो हमेशा से चल रहा है. So every time he would come from school, he had to watch Bazigar, otherwise he won't have lunch. So this happened for years. So VCR में बाजीगर का टेप डलता था, then he would watch it and then he would have lunch. तो इस लेवल का obsession रहा था, and that is why हाँ मेरी सारी VCR memories are because of बाजीगर.
And then we would be made to watch all these English films, Sound of Music, Mary Poppins, My Fair Lady. Nice. So, you know, those that all children going to English medium schools are made to watch in middle class families. कि ये 3 फिल्में आप देख लो, you know. So those were great fun. I loved the musicals actually, and I used to keep tripping on the songs, and it was nice.
Do you still like the musicals?
I don't watch so much of it.
जैसे आपको La La Land कैसी लगी?
I loved it. Yeah. And in our cinema, so everything is a musical. But I love song picturizations. It's great fun.
I'll make a video essay someday on like how Om Shanti Om did what La La Land tried to do, because there is a मैं अगर कहूँ जो गाना है ओम शांति ओम का, it's basically La La Land. La La Land ने वो ही बनाया और जब हमने बनाया तब तो वेरी लग रहा था.
Even Barbie right now, it has a full like dance
How did you like Barbie?
मतलब it was, I thought it was Mattel selling us Barbie in a new way. It was just that. So basically they've understood very cleverly that now the world is woke. So they can't be selling stereotypes anymore. So they have to subvert the whole conversation. But I think they essentially were selling subversion, which therefore is not subversion anymore.
This is a good point, because मेरे को थोड़ी underwhelming लगी Barbie.
But I still thought it was entertaining.
Yeah, well, I तो went to like it. मैं pink पहन के गया था. Like
you're one of those.
Yeah. I proper dressed up as it, but कहीं मुझे थोड़ी preachy हो रही है, मतलब ऐसे.
Well, I thought it's Instagram level conversation about feminism, which is ठीक है. I mean, it's all the correct sounding things.
Yes, correct.
But it's not really getting into anything more than that. And I mean, but it's still talking about cellulite in your body and all of that. And, you know, it's repackaging Barbie and selling it in this woke world, basically.
You know, there's this like ad they play in Barbie बीच में कि sad Barbies. याद है वो बीच में एक छोटा सा clipping आती है कि you know these like Barbies have depression and like they are always on Instagram.
वो भी था ना, this is a Proustian Barbie, she's been discontinued.
Yes.
So it was funny, and I thought both of them did a great job, like Margot Robbie, and I thought Ryan Gosling was outstanding. I am not a Ryan Gosling swooner. I think he's cute, but you know, there are people who are dying for Ryan Gosling. I'm not one of those. But I thought he was he's such a comfortable performer. It's so lovely to watch performances जिसमें performer को समझ आ गया कि ये film कौन से genre में है. You know, so, and they're being able to play to that. They're being able to fit into that. You know, they're being able to navigate that with a sense of ease and comfort, which is great. Like he just does his stuff so well. He just knows how to do it. I don't know how. Like as a performer, I was thinking that if I had been placed in a film like Barbie, would I have understood that how this film is going to turn out and therefore been able to get the beats of the performance?
Very interesting.
Of course, it is the director's job to sort of explain their vision to you, to get across to you, but you should have the bandwidth to absorb it, you know, the experience to absorb it. Like, for example, if I hadn't watched Barbie, and if something like this had come to me, I would have probably not understood the quirkiness of it, understood the humor of it, understood the way the film. So I think he just knew how to balance that.
Yes,
It was lovely to watch. He's so comfortable and so lovely to watch.
मेरे को ऐसा लगता है मैं बारबी के बारे में अगर थोड़े और ऐसे रिव्यूज पढ़ूंगा और मैं कुछ चीज़ें पढ़ूंगा तो आई विल बी एबल टू अप्रिशिएट इट मोर. मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि कुछ उसकी एकेडमिक चीज़ें हैं कि जो मैं पढ़ूंगा तो ज़्यादा एंजॉय कर पाऊंगा. आई थिंक दे माइट हैव डन,
But it's entertaining.
Entertaining,
you know, and I enjoyed it. Like
एंड आपने ओपनहाइमर देख ली?
कल देखी.
कैसी लगी?
Christopher Nolan. But I haven't actually watched, the only two films that I haven't watched of Nolan is his last two films, which is Dunkirk and Tenet.
Tenet, ठीक है.
I know many people have said those are but I've watched all of his other films, like his earlier, like I think his first film was a film called Following,
yes,
which is an indie film, which is very interestingly made.
And उसके बाद एक
Insomnia I've watched, which is stunning performances by Robin Williams and Al Pacino, and it's in which place though? Finland.
Yeah, नहीं मेरे को.
Because it's that midnight sun, right? It's that. So what I like about, what I found very fascinating about Nolan as a filmmaker, and he's one of my favorite filmmakers, is I thought he managed to give a superhero like Batman a philosophy, you know? Like there was something which was so mainstream about the film, but it still sort of gave you something else to think about.
Mainstream with an indie heart. Yeah.
Not with an indie heart, but कुछ तो बहुत उसके dialogue में, his dialogues are always, you know, they're not simplistic, you know, they're pretty profound, you know, and very, but I'm not so conscious of its own profoundness, you know. So it's a very interesting dialogue writing, I think. So I've always been I think Prestige though is one of my favorite films.
It's my favorite Nolan film also.
उसमें एक moment है Prestige में which taught me something very interesting about performance. So उसमें एक magician आता है, बहुत बूढ़ा.
बताते हैं 3 stages of a magic.
नहीं, अब वो तो है ही. That's the basis of the film. That's the 3 stages of magic is also the form of the film, right? He's taken the 3 stages into the 3 acts of telling that story. But एक बहुत बूढ़ा magician आता है. It's actually a very small segment in Prestige. And these two are trying to think how he manages one particular act. And they realize that what he does is actually under his robe, he holds together a fish bowl between his legs, and therefore he limps. but he
Does
also limps in real life
Yes.
so that he can carry on this act.
Yes.
You know, and I just thought that was such an outstanding thing to learn about being a
Yeah.
performer, right? That people will go to this level to put up a show.
Lovely.
You know, that he will transform something, the way he walks in life, so that what he does on stage is believable. You know, I thought that was...
I love how you remember this specific scene क्योंकि मेरे को एकदम से image आ गया. I think वो थोड़े से healthy भी थे.
हाँ, and he
जब-
walks, an old
Yeah.
man, and he walks a little like that. And they're trying to crack कि ये कैसे करता है, you know. And that's such an interesting thing to...
Yeah.
The extent to which you can go
Yeah.
to keep the show going.
Yeah.
You know? And that is just very fascinating.
लेकिन आपने Oppenheimer का नहीं बताया.
Yeah, Oppenheimer. So I've always felt कि I was coming to that, but I lost my trail of thought. I've always felt कि he gives something, he layers an otherwise, he layers and manages to go deeper into something that would have otherwise just been any other Hollywood film, you know. And that's what I like about it, that it's accessible because it's mainstream, but there's something more in it for people who are looking for that. But this I felt was not that. Like I felt...
सुबह 11:30 बजे का show है.
No, but it's got very good reviews. It was just my feeling. I felt like जो भी चीजें की हुई थी to make you feel something, for me वो gimmicky. I didn't buy into it. You know, I mean, I thought it was Nolan trying to be Nolan, and not Nolan being Nolan. And
Did you watch it in IMAX?
I watched it in IMAX.
फिर तो कोई excuse ही नहीं है.
हाँ, and I watched it from the correct seats in IMAX. That is also
That's
a thing.
very important.
And that it reminds me of this conversation that, you know, Qissa was a film that I mentioned earlier. जब हम Qissa had premiered at Toronto, and Irfan was on a very interesting move in his career where Pan Singh Tomar had released and it had done reasonably well, and you know, films with him at the center and films like those were working, and he's obviously his talent was everywhere, you know, because it was undeniable at that stage. And there was a very interesting conversation between Irfan and the Toronto Film Festival director, where there was like a one-on-one chat with them, which we'd all gone to listen to. And I had worked with Irfan, and I was even more in awe of him at that time than I had been before I worked with him, because he was just one of the most beautiful co-actors to have. And I really learned how to be a good co-actor from Irfan, Tiska and Tilotoma, you know, because they really gave me a kind of respect and attention that they didn't really need to, because because my work was not known or recognized, but they just genuinely were so there for me. And Irfan was so there in Qissa as a co-actor that, you know, I really learned how to be a good co-actor from him. And he was in conversation with the director of TIFF, and the director asked him, "So Irfan, are you finally getting to work with the directors you've always wanted to work with?" And he said, "Yes, but they're not those directors anymore." Because everybody has a creative journey, you know, and some people who you've liked in one phase of their career, and they've changed as creative people, and they make different things. So yeah, it's not like I'll be the same kind of actor throughout my career. Hopefully not. I mean, and similarly and especially for directors, you know, I think what excites them, how they tell a story, I think changes dramatically over years. So yeah, so I felt like Nolan was not the Nolan I used to love.
Nolan is no longer the Nolan.
Nolan that I used to love. No, I'm not judging him based on this. It's a great
नहीं,
film.
अगर आपको
It's not a bad.
आप जज करना है टेनेट देखो, आप मस्त जज करो.
I know. वो तो बहुत सारे लोगों ने मुझे बताया, इसलिए मैं नहीं गई.
हाँ, ये भी
क्योंकि
होता
ऐसे
है.
मेरा हार्ट ब्रेक हो जाएगा.
Sometimes you love someone, some artist so much कि to preserve those memories you don't watch some of their work. मैंने ये बहुत किया.
हाँ, but अभी मैंने वो छोड़ दिया है.
अच्छा.
Because I have understood that
Yeah.
that people need to have different experiences. You know, अभी मैंने भी थोड़ा ज़्यादा काम कर लिया है, so I've begun to understand कि unless you let go of the idea of wanting to be very good in everything, you can't experiment.
Yeah.
So you have to let go of that. So I've let go of that in my career. I'm like, I have a right as a performer to experiment as much as I want to. And that would mean that I will mess up.
Yeah.
And I have to be okay with that. And therefore I have to be okay with other people doing the same.
Yeah.
Right?
Meaning you'll have to watch Tenet.
Meaning I'll have to watch Tenet.
Yeah. So अब हम बिल्कुल ऐसे चाइल्डहुड से एकदम से बारबी ओपेनहाइमर पे आ गए, बीच का जो है हम उनकी बात करेंगे. So in general अगर like if you are like to know Rasika like and my personality, these are some of the films which represent me. अगर मेरे को जानना है ना तो यार ये कुछ फिल्में हैं. So which are those films?
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Nice.
It is one of my favorite films, and I think I've realized that the films that I tend to like are ones which are about. I've been very fascinated with how cinema deals with the idea of memory, you know, and I'm very fascinated with how people, and Eternal Sunshine is one of a big example of how memory is dealt with, you know. Like even flashback as a technique to go into a memory, to go into another time, I think is how people use flashbacks in films, you know. That's been, if I ever have to do a PhD on something in film, this might be this might be my topic.
अब मेरे को एकदम बहुत interesting conversation आ रहा है because I am equally like यहाँ पे है मेरे पास कुछ, आप बताइए.
So how people deal with love and memory, how they choose to remember, what they choose to remember, and Eternal Sunshine is about that, right? It is about erasing memory, and I think it's done so cleverly. Like it's not diluting what it's talking about, but it's giving a very interesting spin to unresolved grief, you know, to not being able to let go, to the idea of love, longing, to the idea of wanting to control, to the idea of how you choose to remember, and when you can't, what do you do, you know? So it's all of that, and all of these are very, very fascinating for me, because I think what we don't want to remember is what drives life for us.
Such a great line.
In many ways. And when I do some character work, I try to pay attention to what is it that this person wants to forget, you know?
Wow.
So that is, I think, a very, and even when you meet people, I think some of the most meaningful conversations are when you, even in a casual conversation, when you find what they're trying to not believe in, or they're trying to not remember, you know, and just the pain of that is a lot, and I think that gives a lot to. So Eternal Sunshine is one of my favorite films.
Let's talk a little about flashbacks because आपने आप इसमें PhD करना चाहोगे?
अभी किया नहीं है, लेकिन
like,
I would want to.
It interests you that much.
It
and
interests
like,
me.
I have been thinking about flashbacks a lot ever since I got into the industry and the depiction of flashback, and I have some very extreme like opinions on that. आप बताना आप क्या सोचते हो इसके बारे में? मेरे को लगता है कि majorly flashbacks are shown in a very wrong way. मतलब जैसे हमने जो आज तक depictions देखी है, मैं आपको इसमें एक बहुत interesting take देता हूँ कि एक बिजली की बाहर थंडर की आवाज़ आती है और फिर आप देखते हो कि बचपन में क्या हुआ था. या तो ब्लैक एंड वाइट आ जाएगा या सेपिया का टिंट आ जाएगा, एंड देन यू विल सी कि बचपन में उनका ये ट्रॉमा था एंड फिर ये चीज़ आई, और आप आवाज़ भी सुनते हो, आप विजुअल भी देखते हो. फिर मैंने एक पिक्चर देखी स्पाइक जोन्स की हर, Have you seen her?
Yeah.
So her में एक scene है जहाँ पे
I
the
can, isn't that also written by Charlie Kaufman? No, na?
that one is not, but they have worked together. I think
Haan,
Spike Jonze
they
and
worked on some other
yeah,
film
yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah.
Because Eternal Sunshine is written by Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah, yeah,
हाँ.
हाँ. So, so वो अपनी wife से वहाँ पे मिलते हैं कि and like they have to sign divorce papers.
I can't remember this particular scene, but
Yeah.
I watched the film.
So that is my favorite scene from the movie.
It's
So,
a beautiful
yeah.
film. It's also around these themes.
Exactly. So there is Rooney Mara and there is this guy.
I love her.
I love her too.
She's so good, man. She's so good. I haven't watched her in anything recently,
Yeah.
but she's outstanding.
Yeah.
Anyway.
मैं ऐसे कभी-कभी सोचता हूँ कि I'm longing for a La La Land with Ryan Gosling and Rooney Mara.
that is interesting. But I haven't seen her in anything recently. Have
मैं तो ऐसे मेरे विजुअल बनाते रहता हूँ. मेरे को एमा स्टोन नहीं चाहिए, मेरे को रूनी मारा और रायन गॉसलिंग चाहिए. So there is a scene now. अब वो मिल रहे हैं and like the guy is telling कि I have fallen in love with someone and that is a computer system. Now what happens is कि वो होते हैं कि थोड़ी टाइम बाद साइन कर लेंगे divorce papers, but she's like, you know what, let's do it right now. So she starts signing the divorce papers and आप ना पेन के चलने की आवाज सुनते हो and the camera is on Joaquin Phoenix. Camera is on him. You are listening to the sound of the pen and the flashback starts coming of the moments they were together. You are not hearing the sounds of the flashbacks. You are just seeing the visuals. और पूरे time there is the scratching of the pen. And then when I saw like these films of John Mark Valley, उनका एक show है Sharp Objects जिसमें Amy Adams है. पूरे शो में जितने flashbacks हैं are visual only flashbacks. They don't have sounds. And I'm like, finally we are getting flashbacks, right? Because आप वो थोड़ा सा echo डाल के जो flashback दिखाते हो ना कि पापा ने ये बोला था बचपन में वगैरह. That is not how mind is perceiving. I am like very strong opinion.
No, even how we dream, right?
Yeah.
Even how we dream, which is the other film that I really like is a film called Fountain. Have you seen it?
Yes, I have seen Fountain.
And the sound design of
Yes.
Fountain and the music,
Yes.
the background score of Fountain is one of the best ever.
Yeah.
Like I can listen to it forever and ever.
Darren Aronofsky.
Darren Aronofsky. Yeah. But you know how people show dream sequences, how flashbacks happen. Those are things. But I think everybody does it differently.
Everyone,
like when you were saying that, you know, visual aata hai. I mean, we haven't reached that level in technology, but I'm sure we will. The first thing that I remember when I try and recall a memory is smell, actually.
Wow.
For me, that happens first. Like, I can smell that place.
Wow.
And in fact, sometimes a similar smell takes me back to a certain memory and I can make the association. I'm like, oh, it smelled, this other place smelled like this many years ago. Yeah. And I don't know how cinema can do that, but maybe one day it will. So everybody has a different way of dreaming.
Yes.
You know, and like some people have, but dreams also always have a sense of foreboding, right?
Foreboding मतलब?
In the sense कि dream में आपको 5 मिनट पहले पता हो, 5 मिनट नहीं, time तो dream में anyways क्यों होता है, you have a sense of what is going to happen. You have a feeling of what is going to happen.
Okay.
You don't know what it is, but you somehow feel कि कुछ, that happens in my dreams a lot. Does it happen? I don't know how people also dream differently, right? And we also all dream. But I've noticed mostly that in dreams you might not be able to tell exactly. You won't know what you're going to, but there's a feeling that something bad is going to happen.
Okay.
You know, or there's a feeling that you're going to lose this person who you're. So there might be a visual of you talking to a person, but somehow you know that it's leading to you losing this person. Don't you have that?
Yeah, मैं समझ रहा हूँ जो आप बोल रहे हो. I'm not sure if I have experienced it, but I can relate to it.
Yeah, so that's also what interests me. And cinema has a lot of that. Like cinema can easily create a sense of foreboding, right? Either with sound or with just the way it's filmed, lensed, lit. There are just so many tools you have to create a kind of, not a mood, because that's a very, but to create another layer.
Yeah, you know, like there are so many films. ऐसे कोई particular film ऐसे दिमाग में नहीं आ रही कि जब कोई past memory imagine कर रहा है, so there is a hand of a person and they are going back. ऐसा होता है ना कि वो दूर जाए जा रहे हैं, like कि you were about to touch them, but like somewhat of a foreboding effect कि basically okay, I'm losing that person. I was about to like meet that person and the dream has broken. कि हम साथ में थे, we are no longer.
But you would, when I feel in dreams, you would know that you have a sense of whether this is going to be good or bad. That's what I mean by a sense of foreboding. Somehow you know that this is going to end badly or this is going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, there's always that sense. Do you
Yeah.
guys feel that? I'm
Do you
taking a
guys feel
vote.
that?
ये तो सबने phones में घुसे हैं
कोई
बेचारे.
नहीं घुसा होगा. Dhruv, do you feel that?
Yeah, I think it's true.
Yeah.
Don't you have a sense of how it's going to transpire? Yeah.
That around कि मेरे को जो feel हो रहा है वो होएगा. मतलब if I try to calm myself down फिर अच्छी चीजें होने लगेंगी.
Then lucid
You're trying to control your dream also.
Lucid dreaming also comes into place. So like now I'm in control and I'm doing whatever I want to happen. ऐसा भी होता है.
ऐसा भी होता है.
Do you have any recurring dream?
You know, I've been so tired for the last 3 years. I just go and sleep and I don't dream much.
Which is not a good thing. You should be dreaming.
Yeah, I need to take some time off, yaar, to get back my dreams.
क्योंकि वो जो sleep cycle होती है उसका बहुत important part है कि a healthy sleep cycle.
Maybe, I sleep very deep.
हाँ,
Very deep. Maybe I just don't remember them because there's too much happening. But one is that, you know, when you're busy and anxious, your anxieties are played out in your dreams also. So I have a lot of time anxiety, which always happens in my dreams, where I'm trying to reach somewhere, I'm not able to, you know.
मेरी वो हमेशा एग्जाम पेपर है, इन्विजिलेटर आ रहा है.
वो तो कभी I don't think it'll ever leave us.
और वो पेपर छीनने वाला है. नहीं मेरे को पेपर भरना.
If you've grown up in India in the 80s, 90s, you will be dying of middle class time anxiety. If we don't arrive here at this particular time, this task is not going to happen.
Yeah, ये बहुत ही एक India specific dream हो गई.
But I don't think I dream in sepia. But I don't know what colors I dream in.
This is interesting. So हम flashbacks की बातें कर रहे थे और हमने हर मूवी की बातें की. Charlie Kaufman का have you seen the other work? Like he has made this very interesting animated film called Anomalisa.
No, I haven't seen
You
it.
should watch.
And he's also directed that film which Cynic Dog New
हाँ,
York.
मेरे को कल ही किसी ने
With Philip Seymour Hoffman. I had started watching that. It hadn't released in India, but I was waiting for it for very long क्योंकि Charlie Kaufman ने direct किया. I said, चलो writer now directing and you know some writer to really sort of somebody's work I've been following.
So yeah, Charlie Kaufman is a very interesting voice, and like you were on the tangent of memories and love and your favorite films. So we started with Eternal and we got into this whole.
Yeah.
And what are the other films?
Fountain is another. Mr. India we've already spoken of. Blue Jasmine.
The Mark Duplass one? वो Blue Jasmine, Kate Blanchett one.
Kate Blanchett one. Woody Allen's directed
Yes,
it.
I love
And
it.
she got the Oscar for it. And it's one of my favorite performances. And I remember when I saw the first shot, which is of her in a plane, and she seems a little, you feel there's something wrong with her. You know, like she seems a little unhinged. And you see that in that first shot only. And I just felt that when I saw that, I remember while watching the film, and because I hadn't seen the rest of it yet, and because it's the first scene, I just felt that I was like, why is Kate Blanchett doing such a bad job? When I saw the first scene. And then the way she builds you realize that, you know, that was done as a solid base to build something, you know. And
I remember the last scene of it where she's again like that.
Through the film, and just how she deals with dialogue, and she's a master at that. Yeah, if you see her, if you've seen Tar, there's that whole interview sequence, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel even for a moment? I mean, you feel like somebody's interviewing her. You feel like the only way she could have prepared for this scene is done 3 years of being a conductor and then sat for this interview.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like you can see the passion, you can see the thinking, you can see the idea that, I've been asked this question before.
Yeah.
And it's very verbose. That whole section is very verbose. But and it's not easy to work with lines like that. It's really a craft, you know. And I feel that that as a performer, I want something like that to work with, which is so verbose, and I can make all of it look like my own.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very interesting task.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting task as a performer, because dialogue, because you know, a lot of us get a lot of performances that I've seen around me and from my own work. I feel that the silent moments are very powerful, but there's something that we are not getting right with the lines. You know, like either we've not worked enough on them, we've not found a process in which it becomes like that. So those two performances really for me is like a masterclass in how to deal with dialogue and how to build a character, you know, because I feel moments I know how to do. I know how to do scene work efficiently. You know, I have my sparks here and there, and it all comes together well, but these are really things to learn and really hone, you know. And of course, her Oscar speech.
Yes, after Blue Jasmine. No?
I can never forget that speech in my life. It is, she said that people who believe that, people who still foolishly believe that stories with women in the center should not be made, let me tell them that they in fact make money. So, and that was a very powerful thing to say. And I'm not quoting her verbatim, but it was something like this. And I thought that was very lovely.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned Kate Blanchett, because Blue Jasmine was a performance that I was also deeply moved by. And you know, interestingly, I was watching Oscar speech abhi पिछले कुछ दिनों से of a leading actress, only leading actor in like female category, Olivia Colman. Olivia Colman, I start crying.
वो तो she
मतलब रोने लग जाता हूँ उनके बारे में सोच.
She's another one you can't see the skill. Like she's so outstanding in that series, yaar. What is it called? Crown, of course. But Crown, I really like Claire Foy actually. I got so sort of consumed by her that even though Olivia Colman came, I was like, but I think, you know, it's just that part of the story, because it's the part of the story where you really see her vulnerability as a queen. You know, she calls that cuter because she doesn't understand things that are being discussed in Parliament. Just the sweetness of that act, you know. So I think, and Claire Foy is she's a beautiful performer. She's really done that so nicely, you know.
Which is the one you are mentioning?
Which is the Broadchurch.
I haven't seen Broadchurch.
She's outstanding in Broadchurch. It's one of her like earlier than all of us knew her well.
Yeah.
But
I loved her in this movie called The Lost Daughter.
I haven't seen it.
You should watch it. Like it's like about.
Is it based on a book?
I think so. Yes, and it is on Netflix, and it is about this writer who basically कैसे trip पे जाती है to be able to write, and she keeps getting bothered by people who are coming in. And और अभी उन्होंने recently The Bear. Have you seen The Bear?
I haven't seen it yet.
So she has a small cameo in it, and like,
she must have rocked it there also.
ऐसे हो गया था कि I legit cried for 30 minutes after that. I'm not even kidding. It's the most powerful. मैं ना अभी भी YouTube पे रोज सर्च करता हूँ Olivia Colman The Bear. कोई डाल दे उसका clipping डाल दे.
But there's this other film that she's in which is
Let me check.
So good. Where it's there are these three women. What is it called? It's lovely, that film. You know what I'm talking. And who Rachel Weisz is in it, is it?
Oh, Rachel Weisz के साथ इनकी.
She's another
favorite. The Favorite.
Yeah.
She won the Oscar for that only.
She won the Oscar for that. She's too good in that.
Yeah, she is too good.
And there's who else is in it?
Rachel Weisz. Emma.
The three women.
Yeah. Emma Stone ही है. Emma Stone, Rachel Weisz, and
Emma Stone, Rachel Weisz, and Olivia Colman.
Yeah.
What a cast. Rachel Weisz I love.
Yeah. Have you seen a film called Disobedience?
No.
You should watch it. Like
Rachel Weisz?
Rachel Weisz है उसमें, and उन्होंने it's a love story of two women, and Rachel Weisz is in love with another female, and they are on a family trip, and like it's kind of a thing they can't tell the family, and they are in love. It's one of my favorite essay. Same like उसका movie
I'll
बहुत,
watch.
and I love Rachel Weisz बहुत.
She's very good.
She's
There's something very nice about everything that she does.
Yeah.
She's lovely in this one film, My Blueberry Nights, I think it's
I haven't
called.
seen. Okay.
My Blueberry Nights, very nice.
Yeah.
Very watchable.
Yeah. And like, who are the other actors in general that you really, really like?
I love the cast of Succession.
Nice.
Again, working with dialogue.
Yeah.
I think right now I'm going through that phase where I'm trying to crack this for myself. So I'm drawn to performances which have done this this aspect of the job well, which is how to make lines sound like your own, and dealing with a lot of dialogue, right? So, and how to find a way that a person speaks. This is all very interesting because, I mean, if you take one room and you record people, you'll see the way that they pause, the way that they talk is totally different from each other. You know, people, and where people choose to pause, where they choose to break a sentence and go to another thought. Like, I know I do that a lot. Like, I start out a sentence and I break it and I move on to another thought because, you know, something else has come. Somebody else might not be like that. They might be totally coherent all the time and not have these imperfections in the way that they speak. It's wildly interesting to know how different people speak and to be able to adapt another way of speaking, which is different from yours, which sort of ties in with the lines that you've been given.
Yeah.
You know, and that requires a lot of work. I think a lot of work with writers, a lot of work with dialogue writers while you're building a performance. And I've seen a lot of that very effortlessness in a lot of in Succession, especially when they're the humorous, snappy, and sarcastic lines. You know, which all of these have.
If you have to choose one actor who stood out for you in Succession, who would it be? If you have to pick one,
I think it would be Sarah Snook in season 1 and Jeremy Strong in 1 and 2, and yeah, I think they are.
Sarah Snook season 1. Why season 1 in particular? Like, I'm trying to. मैंने बहुत ढंग से देखा तो I'm trying to remember which part of season 1 and Sarah Snook आपको ऐसे याद है जिस वजह से it stood out for you?
No, she has all the sarcastic lines, right?
Got it.
She's the and without being as irreverent as what is his first name? Sorry.
Who's?
Culkin. What is his first name?
Kieran
Culkin.
yeah.
Without being as irreverent as him, you know. So that's a very interesting zone to be in.
Yeah.
Like without doing too much, you have to sort of be this person who is kind of scary, right?
Yeah.
But not really. Like somebody who you would be intimidated by. But I think season 1, I was totally taken in by that performance, and
Very nice.
I felt that overseas, I mean, all of them were great. The writing is phenomenal. But like I said, you can write all these great dialogues, but if you don't have performers who can pull them off, then, and I think dialogue writing is highly underrated and exercise, and especially with the work that we do here, it is very difficult to deal with bad dialogue. And more often than not, it is bad. You know, you have to be a very talented dialogue writer to write with the imperfections that people have when they speak. You know, because nobody speaks and according to the kind of people they are and according to the way they are on that day. You know, it's a very important part of writing. And I think this is a department which is not given enough attention.
True. I was telling you I was doing an episode with Jim yesterday, and Jim said a very interesting thing.
Instead, in most film scripts, it's over-explained.
Yeah.
In brackets, sarcastically. Baba, if the writing is not strong enough for me to know that he's being sarcastic in this moment, then you've failed me already. I should already at this point, based on how my character has been speaking, know that this line has
to be sarcastic. You don't need to write it in brackets.
Good God, no. Unless you're scared that it's not coming across. In that case, spend more time with your writing.
If you have to put it in a bracket that it has to be said
that kind of direction is terrible. I hate it when I read it in a script. I'm like, can I unread this? Because then it's telling me what to be without arriving to that place. And when you're doing too much work and if there's not enough time and people are not paying attention to the project, I mean, it's not made with the kind of integrity that a show should be made with. Then ठीक है, अगर सब वैसे ऊपर से काम करने हैं तो चलो चल जाता है, you know. But it's very annoying when you've been living with something for a while and you go to the set thinking कि today I'm going to discover something new. Today I'm going to find that moment with my co-actor where I'll be surprised at what I have done. Where they'll surprise me with what they give me and I'll receive it. And that'll prompt me to do something else. And you go in with the risk that I will not plan what I do. I will let things happen, but I will be there. And that's the whole idea of the work that you do, that you equip yourself with enough such that you can be in the moment. Because being in the moment is not कि अरे यार मैं तो कुछ काम नहीं करूँगा मैं चली जाऊँगी और and I'll be in the moment. Be in the moment ऐसे नहीं होता है. You have to create. In fact, it's harder because you've not thought of how you're going to do this scene. Yes. You have to equip yourself with enough around it so that you're able to be in the scene. You know, that is the idea as a performer. So वो उसके लिए बहुत काम करना पड़ता है.
Exactly, like Ethan Hawke is one of my favorite actors. उनकी एक line है कि everything you do in life as an actor is to make sure कि जब आप उस moment जब act करने जाते हो आपका subconscious activated हो. Right, कि अब आप subconsciously चीजें कर पा रहे हो. You do the homework so that you can improvise in the present moment.
Exactly. It's not कि you go without homework.
Yeah, homework आपने किया ही इसलिए कि अब मैं कुछ भी कर पाऊँ. And you mentioned Succession. आपको तो जो Succession का last scene है in the boardroom के बाहर वो जो 3 जनों की fight होती है. Spoiler, अभी तक सबको देख लेना चाहिए by the way. The directors did not give any like कि अच्छा इसको ऐसे करना होगा. They just sent them in the room. जाके करो. Because they always give that one take without giving them any instruction because I want to see कि as actors तुम क्या करते हो.
अरे I love having that one take without any instruction and actually, you know, and I have to struggle and fight for an extra take on set because nowadays things are filmed so jaldi. Time is such a thing on your head that I have to beg directors for another take. And many often people ask me, why did you ask for that extra take? I was like, I just wanted to have one take where everybody, with the previous take, when everybody's aspirations have been fulfilled, when we met all the, अच्छा ये ठीक हो गया, lighting ठीक थी, focus ठीक था, लाइनें याद थी, ये हो गया, director को ऐसे चाहिए था, वो हो गया, अब ये सब हो गया. Now let all of this, हो गया ना, वो तो मिल गया. Now let's have this one take
मेरे को खेलने तो दो.
where we can all not be worried about the instruction. You
Lovely.
know, where the instruction is there and you will follow it. Subconsciously, most people are obedient. Somewhere you will tend to have that in your mind. And when you're not conscious of it, what happens?
Lovely.
You know, that one for love.
One for love. Yeah. Now I want to talk to you about books. And books के साथ
saddest relationship in the last few years.
ये तो teaser है हमारा.
It's complicated.
Situationship.
I've shifted. My love for books has become the joke with my friends. I have a few writer friends, and one of them has written a book. And the joke now is that Rasika doesn't reach beyond 50 pages. So anytime I say I'm reading a book, people are like, 51 aaya?
Oh.
Because it's just now the mind has become too much about the visual and there's too many distractions happening. I'm finding it hard for the last 2-3 years. It's been very bad. So I still read short form content, but for a long time I've been reading a lot of short stories, and I think my early influences when I went to college in Delhi in LSR was a lot of the progressive writers, and I read a lot of their work in short stories. I still haven't read the longer novels, you know. It's mostly been the short stories which I really enjoyed, and those were my early influences, and a lot of women writers, and I really love the way they write about romance and revolution, and I think that's like अगर आप फैज़ के poems पढ़ो तो for the longest time I thought it was it was romantic poetry, and I realized later that it was about revolution, about protest, you know. So, and then I read something very beautiful that this lovely writer called Paromita Vora had written, where she says that romance and revolution are the same thing, you know, because they lead you to imagine a world that doesn't exist, you know. So that, I think, most of the progressive writers did very well. They talked about revolution in the everyday things, you know, and that I thought was very inspiring. I'm actually very interested in that period in history, and बहुत सारा काम जो मैंने किया is actually set in 1940s 50s. I think I always believe कि as artist ना, जो आपको अंदर से चाहिए होता है वो finally आपके साथ वही होता है. So Qissa is actually set in 40s 50s. Suitable Boys set in the new India post partition. Miniaturist of Junagadh is set during partition, and all of them are dealing with the idea of the grief of being uprooted, the sense of having to leave something you've known as your own for reasons that you cannot comprehend, that you feel shouldn't be, and the idea that you always feel that you're going to come back. You know, so all of these, and actually I started reading progressive writers in LSR because Rajinder Singh Bedi, Manto, Ismat Chugtai, Faiz, because that was the sort of culture in my college at that time, and it was a sort of need to familiarize yourself with Indian writers, you know, because mostly my upbringing had been reading, if you had to read novels, it would be English books, you know. So this was sort of knowing your own writers. And then FTII, when I decided to become an actor and when I was in the Film Institute, so this was, I wanted to read in Urdu and Hindi taki my grasp over the language is better. So that was the reason to read them. So I think LSR में मैंने मंटो जब पढ़ा था, it was in English, it was a translated version. FTI में beginning में जब पढ़ा था, it was in Devanagari. Then I started taking Urdu classes. So then I started reading in Urdu. So that was sort of the journey with that.
Nice.
Now I want to talk a little bit about films that I watched in FTI. I totally forgot about that whole. That was actually my first introduction to world cinema, right? And sort of viewing movies as a student rather than watching it just for entertainment. And film appreciation. I had done a paper in film right before going to FTI. Just the idea कि जो हम लोग बहुत, जो हमारे लिए एकदम taken for granted है, like जो होना चाहिए, like when a viewer watches a film, वो उनको तो पता, ये भी नहीं पता होता है कि shot change हुआ, right? Like अगर sometimes I talk to my parents and they're like, why is it taking so much time for you to shoot? And you know, just the idea that we have to take a shot from different angles is something that an average viewer doesn't understand. Maybe now with so much knowledge and, you know, sense of everybody making reels and things like that, this has now become maybe common knowledge, but a generation above us, this is not something that people understand easily. Ki you need to change a camera angle and take another shot. But just the idea of what all we take for granted as viewers, and when it was being broken down, ki the idea of time editing was introduced in a film which we study with Griffith's film. Which one is, what is that called? I'm forgetting. Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation, with, you know, time editing was sort of learnt for the first time, which is so common by the time you're studying it. And, you know, just when you study the classics, I thought that was very fascinating. That's what drew me to FTI. I wanted to actually go to a film school. It was not the need to act or anything, but acting course shuru ho raha tha, maine apply kar diya because it was just the idea of being mesmerized by cinema. So FTI mein, I think there was a time from 6 to 9 every day where we used to watch many films, and then as part of your ragging, पहले महीने में the seniors would say, क्या सीखा तुमने इसमें से, ये notice किया क्या, and they would
ये ragging थी।
हाँ ये भी होता था, वो रात भर चलता था, but this was one of those things that what did you learn from this? And this is about cinema, and you know, there was this whole thing there where you had to, but it was quite nice. So we watched films, even the ones that we got bored in. मतलब actors की class शुरू होती थी सुबह 6 बजे because we had physical fitness and music and all of that. बाकी लोग used to start at 10 o'clock. So when we reached a Tarkovsky film at 6 o'clock in the evening, most of us were asleep. Like, after 3 hours of one frame not moving, you know, हिल ही नहीं रहा ये frame तो. So there were all kinds of cinema, but I think the ones that I really took to was, I think, the Italian neorealism and Bicycle Thieves, and you know, I liked Antonioni also. So मजा आया. It was nice to now study it from, and generally the culture in the Film Institute was so much that, you know, the cinematography students would watch it on, just the idea of watching film on print now is like, that idea is gone almost, right? Now we don't shoot on celluloid anymore, but watching up, and actually I watched Shawshank Redemption in print, right? So that, not a digital DVD. एंड सिनेमाटोग्राफी स्टूडेंट्स के लिए वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ होती थी. एंड जब भी स्क्रीनिंग्स होती थी, अगर एक भी कोई साउंड आ रहा है या समथिंग इज गॉन आउट ऑफ ट्यून, पीपल वुड स्टॉप द स्क्रीनिंग एंड से प्ले इट अगेन. It was that kind of discipline and passion. And if you stood up and left before the credits ended, you are not a lover of cinema if you do that. So those things were very like sacrosanct in FTI. Huh? You would be judged very heavily. You can't leave during the credit sequence.
Any other like part about the films that, or FTI, that you would like to talk about?
I mean, I learned everything I know about performance there, you know. I mean, anything that I know about films there. मतलब वहाँ पे तो ऐसा होता था कि हर समय कोई ना कोई फिल्म शूट हो रही है, तो आप हॉस्टल में सोए हुए हो, कोई आपको रात में आके उठा रहा है कि प्लीज आओ ना, थर्मोकोल पकड़ लो, सो यू बी लाइक, या, सो यू लर्न, एंड बिकॉज यू हैव फ्रेंड्स इन अदर डिपार्टमेंट्स, यू अंडरस्टैंड what it means to be doing that work. But so even though I crib about sound, I know that it's recording sound on location is very difficult. And if you don't do it well enough, it has repercussions on post-production and all of that. So you've seen different sides of filmmaking, and filmmaking is a heavy collaboration. You know, it's like really you have to really be in sync with each other. So वो करने के लिए I think that education was very important.
मैं बिल्कुल एक different tangent पे जाता हूँ. ठीक है, books हमने बात कर ली, movies हमने बात कर ली, and we also talk about products. Okay, so like recommend me something which you purchased for less than 10,000 rupees recent times में, जो आपको लगे ये बड़ी सही चीज़ है, सबको खरीदनी चाहिए. It can be anything. Your upper limit is 10,000 rupees. A good product recommendation.
Like it has to,
कुछ भी हो सकता है. Like people recommend plants, people recommend shoes, people recommend like Spotify.
I bought some striped T-shirts from Zara. I think they're very useful. Also, it's the most efficient app. I love using that app because nobody calls you. They deliver on time. They pick up returns on time. You can return. The return process is as easy, and they never call you.
I think अगर ये brands अपनी tagline बना दे, hey we don't call.
Yeah, best.
लोग भाई बिक्री इतनी बढ़ जाएगी.
I don't shop in certain places because they then say you have to give them an OTP, and I can't do all that भाई. I'm like बस मैंने order कर दिया, वो आ गया, मैंने use कर लिया, जो अच्छा नहीं लगा वो return कर दिया, किसी ने किसी को call नहीं किया.
Yeah. Every time I go to a shop, they say name please, okay, and then like sir number, and like क्यों?
Why?
मैं हर बार बोलता हूँ क्यों? मैं नहीं दे रहा. I never.
Even I don't give.
क्यों चाहिए? मेरे तुम SMS ही तो भेजोगे बाद में.
हाँ, कुछ promotion होगा तो मत भेजना.
Yeah. So okay, so we have some essay. Well, I said.
And I'm going through a striped T-shirt phase. So I think I always, if I like one thing, I buy it in all colors. So easy na, then you don't have to shop again.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Any ऐसे कोई tech products that you like purchased?
I'm super non-tech person. I have this. My phone is बेचारा dying. उसकी गैलरी अपलोड नहीं हो रही. I don't know how I managed to do my work on it. 2 साल से मेरे पास वो सेम फोन है. मुझे चेंज करना है वो भी नहीं हो पा रहा है मेरे से. So tech product तो no. Tech product other people in my life buy for me. I don't.
What's the thing that you gift a lot to people? अगर आपको कोई चीज़ gift करनी है, what's your go-to gift?
Flowers and wine bottle. Prosecco bottle.
Nice.
Easy.
Nice.
You can never go wrong.
Nice. And tell me about some of your, like, are you a foodie?
Oh, I love food.
Yeah. Which are your favorite, like, food places in Mumbai?
In Bombay?
Yeah.
There's this restaurant on. Have you been to Punjab Sweets?
I haven't.
Oh, so Punjab Sweets in Bandra and Pali Naka. There's this Punjabi restaurant. Unke first floor pe it's called Lashkara.
Okay.
They have the best parathas and kulchas possible. So once, I mean, we, as actors, we are often on diets and we have to watch what we eat and all of that. I mean, so I'm always watching what I eat. Therefore, when you said foodie, I made a very sad face because I'm a foodie who always has to watch what they eat. So I mean, see how tough my life is.
Yeah.
एक बार मैं I was dieting for a role and I had thought कि shooting खत्म होगा ना, I'll go and I'm really going to go and eat this chola kulcha in Lashkara in Punjab Sweets. And I was really building it up in my head. कि shoot खत्म होगा तो मैं जाके खाऊंगी. Shoot खत्म हुआ and I had some other work which I finished and finally at 4 o'clock in the afternoon I reached Punjab Sweets and I said, I want my chola kulcha. They said ये 6 बजे तक नहीं मिलेगा क्योंकि वो रेस्टोरेंट सिर्फ 6 बजे खुलता है. And I started crying. I was like, where are these tears coming from? Stop. I was like, I can't be crying for a chola kulcha. Can't, because it's 2 hours away. So yeah, पता नहीं कहाँ से वो आंसू आए. But yeah, I waited then.
आप अभी भी emotional.
I waited for 2 hours and had my chola kulcha.
Yeah. What are the other places?
That's one place that I love ordering from. They have very nice chaat also. But I love the bhel puri from Elko. And I live in Bandra, so these are my haunts. And Saltwater Cafe is always reliable. They have this very, very regular but very tasty spaghetti.
But ये सारी वो जगह है जहाँ से आप ऑर्डर करते हो. हाँ, ऐसे
बैठ के खाने वाला. I don't go out so much anymore. But Perch is one. It's a nice place, nice to sit out, and I like adha open, adha andar. So you have the food in Slink and Bardo is also very good. But ये street food वाला Swati Snacks is damn good. Oh, there's one place called Soam in town.
Okay.
That is got very, very nice, interesting vegetarian food.
Nice.
Like one nice, but very साफ. मतलब you really feel कि किसी ने बड़े प्यार से दिल लगा के बनाया.
So जैसे आपने restaurants बताया अभी and like, but what's that food item that you are like, oh god, this is what I live for?
Garam paratha. Anytime.
And what's the stuffing in this paratha?
I like the churi paratha. Have you heard of churi paratha?
मतलब मेरी चूरी की definition वो
सबकी actually थोड़ी different होती है. कोई चीनी डाल के बनाते हैं.
Yeah, that's
but I have that नमक मिर्च वाला. लाल मिर्च डाल के and also it has to be like a लच्छा. It has to crunch.
चूरी पराठा with pickle, दही.
Pickle, हाँ.
Pickle, nice.
मिर्ची का. Oh God! Abhi now I'll have to deal with not being able to eat it. Mouth watering हो रहा है.
Great. So हमने food की बातें कर ली. One of the last segments is music. So पहले आप मेरे को आपका music के साथ रिश्ता कैसा है ये बताइए.
So my knowledge of Western music is zero. I'm one of those people who in college used to, how some people can't sing English songs. Because I have this is how I used to sing. Like, so no one told you life was going to be this way. You know, how you just don't have that thing. As I don't have that thing. As I'm very into Indian music. I love listening to all the Coke Studio stuff. Old, like Reshma and, you know, all of that. I'm quite, I like listening to old Punjabi music and I love the voice of folk singers and things. That's why Coke Studio. Right now, I think, of course, like half the world, I'm totally in love with Pasuri. I'm also quite an AP Dillon fan. I like that kind of Punjabi music also. Like there was one phase where I tripped on Punjabi MC also, you know, so I'm listening to Punjabi MC and Reshma. So,
I love Punjabi MC.
So that. Then I've been tripping on the soundtrack of Jubilee and Kala. Very beautiful songs. I think Amit Trivedi always has my heart.
Which is your all-time favorite Amit Trivedi album?
I think the first one that I really liked was Aamir.
Oh, nice.
Aani
Jaani very underrated. Very underrated.
Very lovely. And then I think maybe Kala as a whole album.
For me, it's always between Devdi or Udaan. Like these are
Devdi also very nice. Devdi also very nice. Udaan का मुझे इतना याद नहीं आ रहा.
Udaan mainly जैसे नाम एक गाना था उसमें. आज़ादियाँ, कहानी.
Yeah, I didn't tune into it so much.
Yeah. Amazing. So यहाँ पे से are you like heavy on making playlists? जैसे आप playlist वगैरह बनाते हो?
नहीं, लेकिन मैं दूसरों की playlist चुराती हूँ. Because I always feel that I'm not experimental with listening to a lot of stuff and I miss out on many things in terms of music, especially because I get into a loop. I keep listening to the same things again and again. And it takes me a long time to get out of it. Like it takes me a long time before I say I'm bored of this song.
Nice.
You know, I'll listen to it for a year and on loop, and people around me will, like when sometimes we do makeup, we put music and my makeup artists get fried because it's like I'm listening to the same things again and again and again. But I totally enjoy it. I think, and I enjoy stuff which I think really get into the lyrics. You know, some people are more in tune to the music of it. They don't even notice the words. And I think
what is it for you?
It's a lot of it is lyrics driven. A lot of it, which is why I don't like so much Western music, because I feel I don't look at English. My poetry is English is not my poetry wala language. You know, it's Urdu, Hindi, which I like. I love poetry written. I think there's just more, it's a richer language. I feel
very nice.
It's a more lyrical language.
Very
so
nice.
So yeah.
Amazing. So बहुत सारी अच्छी recommendations मिली मेरे को आपसे.
अच्छा, my favorite poet, but I will say myself, is Amrita Pritam, and has been for a very, very long time. And I love her as a poet and as a woman. I think she really sort of wore her obsession on her sleeve and didn't think that she needed to hide it. In a world which wasn't very receiving of things like that, you know. So I think her poetry is something that I really love. Punjabi is anyway very beautiful, and even the things that she's written in Hindi.
Lovely. Is there anything that I might not have asked you, but you would like to say, hey, can we talk about this? ये रह गया, मेरे को इसके बारे में बात करनी है. Anything.
अब मैं यहाँ से जाऊँगी ना, फिर याद आएगा. फिर बोलूँगी, ओहो, ये बोल देना चाहिए था.
But anyway, this was amazing. I hope you had fun.
I did. I'm sorry about the water that kept falling on you. And you did a very good job of ignoring it. You'll make a very good actor.
Thank you so much.
Hi, if you enjoyed watching this video, please subscribe to Chalchitra Talks.